We're back. We're gonna talk about World War I again. So, it was it one day when I was walking around and there were some sinkholes that were forming. I had to get out of them as best as I could. The helicopters were flying around. They were shooting their missiles. It was from the other team. We didn't have helicopters. We had the airplanes. They were starting to get made. They were really cheap though, but they were doing it just good enough. We got them going around. It was doing it just fine, I'd say. And then we went over to those roller bowler things. I forget what they called them. It were like, what were they? I forget. They're like military tanks or something, but they weren't exactly like them. They were like prototype versions, but we got those out and we were somehow able to do it. I don't know. It worked. I guess that's the good thing, right? Yeah, it was good. It was very good. That dirt spot's there. That's weird. It's okay. I don't know why it's there. Breaking the fourth wall, it would be, but it shouldn't be because this is before Mo or whatever. When this was being said. Backstory, me telling my backstory. Okay. I gotta calm down here, right? I gotta get back to what I was saying. What was I even saying? I don't think I remember. Wait, World War I. Wait, was there anything else to say about it? Of course we won because that one was pretty good and, I don't know. At the end of it, money was becoming a problem, which would go into my next thing, which is not a war, it's the Great Depression. The Great Depression, all the frogs were poor, and I don't know, that's all I have to say about it, really. We got out of it one day. There was this Frogz president that wasn't doing any good with it, and it just made it worse, and then this other Frogz president came in, made it better, and everything got better one day, and I was just poor just like everyone else. I hated it, but after some years, it went up, it took itself out. You just gotta deal with it. It'll go away. It's not the end of the world, though it kind of was, but it was out, alright? It's okay. It went. It's fine. I guess something I should mention about it, though, is I had no friends during that. Because, you know, this wasn't really war. I was kind of out of it for a little bit. But I was staying in the area, of course, because I'd want to stay near the area. That way, if I ever needed to go back, I'd be able to go back. If you want to know something, they still call me when I'm 64. I still played my song, you know. When they get older, losing my hair. Yeah, I wasn't 64 yet, but I was somewhere in my 30s, I think. Probably my 30s. Yeah, it was about my 30s. Maybe late 20s. Yeah, actually, I think it was in my 20s. Yeah. Got no idea. Wait, no, it was my 30s. What am I thinking? No, wait, it was my 20s. I don't know. I can't remember my age, alright? But I just want to state something real quick that I think's pretty important to the Great Depression. When us frogs were trying to get the money, there were these bad robber frogs that would take it all and then they'd keep it to themselves. That's the real thing with the Great Depression. Alright? Is that good for you to hear? Now you know the enemies of it. They were robber frogs. They were not a part of our enemy, which was Russia and the frogs. But I just wanted you to know that because I thought it was something that would really relate, okay? Maybe relate to one of you being a robber, except you're not a frogs. Maybe you are, I don't know, you're Demian, though, I'm sure about that. I'd be pretty sure about that, why wouldn't I? Next up, we came into one of my most, I don't know, kind of wars. It was World War II. I was not doing good in this one, alright? I was failing a lot. People were having to help me up. This had something to do with, it had to do with a lot of things. There was the Hitler frogs. Yeah, that wasn't good. I didn't like that one at all. You know, it was just something, but except it wasn't something at all. It was one of the worst things that ever happened in this thing. Jimmy Land World of a place. And I think this music's representing that pretty well. He gave through all these powerful speeches that were making all these frogs in Germany, actually, getting them pretty good with them because, I mean, they want to agree with this Hitler frog, so it's just something that's going to happen. And then there was this Frogz that was like, I forget what his name was, it was something, though. He was like a friend of the Hitler frogs, or maybe not much of a friend, maybe more of just an ally. I think that's a better thing I could say it as. I just don't remember his name, really. It was just some old name. It was some guy. There was another guy, too. I think one of them was actually Mussolini Frogz. Yeah, that was one of them. And then there was another one. Oh, it was Stalin, I think. Stalin Frogz, that's right. Mussolini Frogz, Stalin Frogz, and of course, Hitler Frogz. That was them. And of course, you know what I mean. You know, the John Stalin Frogz, and the other one was just Mussolini Frogz, and of course, Adolf Hitler Frogz. Yeah, I was doing bad in that war. Things were getting a lot tougher for me. I was just a lot older when it happened. I was in like my 30s. Beginning in my 30s. It was just not the same. I was already starting to give out in my 30s. It wasn't until like in my 60s when I felt free again and I could do everything and move everywhere. But in the 30s, I felt like I was 2000 or something, which I'm not yet, but one day I guess I'll be. Yeah, how really? Wait a minute, hold on. Where were we? I'm trying to remember where we were. I think we were talking about World War II. That's right, we were talking about World War II. I was having a bad time, and people had to help me, but I didn't have my good old friend. What was his name? Sailor Seymour? He wasn't there, of course, because he was still in the Marines, I'm sure. Obviously, when I went to World War I was in the Army. And then the Great Depression, I wasn't in anything. But I was still kind of in the Army, but I wasn't doing it. World War II, I was actually not in the Army. World War II, I was in the Navy. I think that's what made it harder, but also just because some of those people with the whole World War II were making it harder for me. World War II frogs are being crazy. At least I had 3 semi-decent friends who could help me out a little bit. They were making things a little bit better. They were kind of getting the things going, you know? Really building it up. Making sure things would go better, alright? That's all I have to say about World War II. You get the idea. Of course we won because we're the Frogz USA. It was just really freaking hard. And we got down Frogz Germany. It was okay. All them bad frogs died. Frogz Hitler, yeah, he killed himself. That's sad. Wait, no, it's not. Why did I say that? I'm just a joke. It's not sad. I'm getting old. I don't remember who these people are anymore. His wife, of course, wasn't sad either. And she actually died from Frogz Hitler, then Frogz Hitler killed himself. This is some dark stuff. I'm sorry if I'm making any of you kiddies a little bit worried here, but you just gotta listen to me, okay? I know where I'm going with this. So, I got to go off to a separate topic, which would be the Holocaust. Now, the Holocaust was a thing that had to do with all the frogs getting put into something. This was actually when Hitler was still alive. Yeah, so this was during World War II. We're going into a semi-topic here with the actual main one I was going over. Now, I'm going to just get that and zoom in, and you can see my face and my hat more. Yeah, there you go. That looks good. Now, when we talk about the Holocaust, it was just pain. I got sucked into that thing, and I got all the pain. I was a lucky survivor. There were only like 10 frogs that survived that thing, and over like, I think, 66 million frogs died from that. Yeah, way more than what the humans did from the human version of the Holocaust, but the frogs one, it was 66 million. Of course, the human one is still very, very sad. Why wouldn't it be? The frogs one was the same exact way, except bigger numbers, because us frogs were more controversial than the humans. I'm sorry if I look like a bad person there, but it's just the truth, okay? That's all I gotta say about Holocaust. It was pain. Lots of pain and no food, no water, of course. Well, actually there was, but it was barely anything. Lots of screaming, lots of emotional moments. That was probably the most emotional part of my lifetime with the Holocaust, to be honest. It was just so sad. That was a bad time. Okay. We gotta move on. Now, boys and girls, I'd like to move on to the next part of my life, which was the Civil War. In the Civil War, I was doing mediocre. I was doing average, kind of like everyone else, alright? Look, I know that all the Frogz were serving the country 100% well, that everything was good with that, but that doesn't necessarily mean they were doing it right. They were doing it right, and don't get me wrong here, the Frogz were kind of making it come to a point where it seemed like they didn't know what they were doing at times, but sometimes they did. They just sucked at it because they were doing it poorly. I was one of the ones that knew what I was doing, but I just sucked at doing it, so I got an average whole thing with this. I was just mediocre at the whole thing. In the Civil War, things were so much different in that one compared to World War I and World War II. It was a different one, man. It was different. I don't even want to... It's just one of those things, you know. I can't get into that, really. It's just something that's not a good thing to get into. But I really got to get into this one. So in the Civil War, the aircraft was getting so much more into this, and instead of being in the Navy like I did in World War II, I decided to take place and go not into the Marines, not into the Navy, not the Army. I went into something else. What do you think it was? Oh boy. Yeah, I went into the Air Force. I can't believe I went into that because I think I wasn't thinking that well. Then again, I was in like my 50s or something like that, and I was just feeling really old. Told you, it's not until the 60s where I felt free again. The Civil War, flying those aircrafts, I was the leader of that. Yeah, I was the leader. World War II, I was a soldier. World War I, I was a soldier. When I was in that Marines, I was a general. And Sailor Seymour was the leader of that. But in this Air Force thing, in the Civil War with the Frogz getting all crazy, one of our most biggest wars, of course, not as big as World War II. Maybe bigger than World War I. I actually think it probably is. I'm just gonna be honest. I don't want to look bad, controversial. I'm just stating my opinion. I got an opinion here. You gotta respect it probably. I guess you don't have to, but you should. What else do I have to say about this thing? What else is there to say about it? I mean, I told you I did average at it. It wasn't that bad, though. It was just average. I didn't necessarily like it or dislike it. It was okay. That's all I really need to say. It wasn't that memorable, but it was. What I did wasn't. But the point of it very, very much was... We did not end up winning. The enemy won. Who was the enemy of the Frogz Civil War? I feel like it was Europe. It was Europe, wasn't it? It was Europe. That's what it was. I'm sorry that I forgot. It's hard to remember, okay? Things are hard for me. Alright? I'm really trying to do this. It's a really big backstory, and this isn't even the last one. So, the Civil War was very interesting. And I'll never forget it for how I did in it, but I will forget it for certain parts that I just didn't care about. But it was still very impactful and very big, and I know that somehow it did some good, but it also did not do some good. Because that was probably the second most emotional thing I've been through. Because I had no friends with that one, but I did have a girlfriend. Weird, right? Because, I mean, at that time, I guess there could be a girl there in the Air Force, but not really, because... But there was one, somehow, a girl Frogz, yeah. That was still kind of similar with the humans, with the whole girl stuff, woman, and the fighting, and that whole thing. I don't remember what they called that, but... Look. And I'm not even going to get into the voting. That's for a completely different thing. I'll bring it up real quick. The voting was actually all completely okay. Women Frogz would vote, men Frogz would vote. But I had girlfriend in the, what was it, the Civil War, and I saw her die right in front of my eyes, okay? She fell off the aircraft accidentally. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't her fault. It happened. It had nothing to do with me, and it was sad. And I didn't like it. Okay, we're gonna have to get back to this. I'll be right back. We'll finish this up, okay? Yeah. Alright.